You want to talk about making an almighty statement. Sure, the top 5 lightweight contender Islam Makhachev was always going to be favoured in a matchup against the unranked Bobby Green, but man, to see him absolutely run through a top 20 155-pound fighter like that under any circumstances, it just says a lot about where his road is taking him. Coming into this matchup in pretty amazing physical condition, full of confidence after his most recent win over Dan Hooker, this latest step in Makhachev's slow rise looked set to act as more of a double down on his current status, rather than the litmus test for his title aspirations that the Dan Hooker fight was. But even with the late opponent switch-up, Islam's willingness to accept the catchweight fight with the tricky veteran that is Bobby Green does deserve to be commended. Green is by no means an easy night out, and though some of Makhachev's detractors might point to his unranked status as something to use against the Dagestani contender, anyone who knows anything about Bobby Green, especially on this most recent run, will know that he is a truly excellent fighter and an extremely dynamic offensive danger on his best day. Unfortunately for him, Saturday night's matchup was far from his best or easiest day at the office, partly because of his own inability to generate anything resembling a threat to Islam's game, and also because of Makhachev's insistence on putting him away with a level of pace and ferocity that is slowly becoming more noticeable and more of a trademark. Look, if you're a rising contender and a hotly tipped prospect, growing in your abilities with each passing fight, risk management in those early, lower profile bouts, that's always going to be a strong course of action. All time spent in the cage at these early stages is experience that is quite valuable, and something you will not so easily take once you enter the shark tank. And for a time it could have been said that Islam was known to take his foot off the gas from time to time, liable to play it slow and relatively safe, dominating position and momentum ahead of fixating too heavily on the finish. But whether it comes from a combination of him deciding to open up a little bit more on the back of his confidence and desire to make a statement, or simply because he is just improving so much, the fact that Makhachev is now a consistent finisher is truly something to behold, and something to be very worried about if you're one of the upper tier lightweights. Not to overplay the Khabib comparisons too much, because they were in very different points of their careers, but if we cast our minds back to the pre-championship stage of Nurmagomedov's rise, it wasn't like he was carving out a reputation as one of the division's best finishers. 4 finishes in 10 fights ain't bad, but all in all, like Islam would do in his own way a few years later, Khabib was in many ways more interested in dominating the fight that he had in front of him, and minimizing his opponent's chances of winning more than rushing to the finish. But as his competition level grew, and Khabib's skills came with them, we began to see him assert himself as a consistent finisher, submitting undoubtedly the 3 toughest opponents of his career in Justin Gaethje, Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier to cap off his time as the 155-pound king. And though Makhachev is by no means in the same position in his own rise, with 4 straight finishes under his belt now, and his reputation for extreme patience being shed further with each passing bout, I can see some parallels. To put it simply, Islam is rising to the level of his placement in the division, becoming increasingly confident in the fact that he is as good as they say, as his teammates say he is, as most of us agree he can be. And that, ladies and gentlemen, coupled with his truly excellent skill set, is going to make him a real problem for these upper-level lightweights. As soon as he got in there with Bobby Green, as much as many fans hoped that he would make it a difficult fight for Islam, or even spring an almighty upset, Makhachev's ability to instantly nullify Green's rhythm and offense, as a result of the danger of his wrestling, yeah, that was something I picked up on immediately. And once he did get a hold of him, the fight's finishing sequence pretty much started from there. On a quick side note, if you're enjoying this content and would like to stay up to date with all of our weekly uploads, be sure to subscribe to this channel to ensure that we can keep building our reputation as MMA YouTube's divisional dark horse before eventually rising to the top and claiming undisputed gold, never again to let it go. Also, we recently set up a Patreon account, so if you want to help support the channel, the link is in the description. But anyway, despite Bobby's decent attempt at stopping the initial takedown, once the fight did hit the mat, the ease with which Makhachev sliced through his guard, found the mount, and began to rain down fight-ending ground and pound for the finish was actually kind of surprising. Sure, Green had limited time to prepare for his opponent's specialist approach, but even still, unranked or otherwise, I do think it says more about Islam's talents than it does about Green's shortcomings. But I really can't fault Makhachev for that win, especially in the manner that he did it. It was just sublime, and while the strength of his resume is bolstered more by numbers than elite names, games. Wins like this one, his submission of Dan Hooker, that early victory over Arman Tsarukyan, who also won last Saturday. Though I wasn't willing to give Islam my pick for the next title shot, now that Oliveira versus Gaethje is seemingly set in stone, I really do think that Makhachev should be given the winner. If he does want to stay active, then if he can get it, a top 6 or 7 opponent would be awesome to see, but barring some bizarre Conor McGregor intervention that sees him steal away a title shot on the back of a 1-3 divisional record, I would imagine that seeing Islam in there by the end of the year would be realistic. And I do think that based on the surge in his form of late, he could reasonably be seen as the betting favourite over either Oliveira or Gaethje. Indeed, both men have talents that could well prove to be tricky. Oliveira's overall submission game and clinical striking will perhaps be bolstered by less intimidation over Makhachev's ground skills because of his own confidence about his ability to work off his back. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but that would certainly be a unique and interesting wrinkle, that's for sure. Gaethje, on the other hand, likely hasn't come on enough to deal with Islam if he does end up on the bottom, but while the matchup is standing, I would argue that his danger levels, coupled with his takedown defense if momentum is on his side, I do think it makes him Islam's biggest threat in the stand-up department. Again though, on the back of what we've been seeing out of Makhachev recently, I'd be inclined to think that there is a new era coming to the 155-pound division, and that it's going to take something pretty damn special to stop this guy in his tracks. But do you see Islam Makhachev as a future champion of the UFC's lightweight division? And between Oliveira and Gaethje, who do you think would give him his hardest matchup? Do let us know your opinions in the comment section below. We always love to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and a comment before subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date with all of our latest uploads. Thank you for watching.